Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to be here. Tried to hide the clicker, but I found it. So. Yes, I'm gonna share a bit of a, well, not that much of a case example, really, to be honest, but more on our vision and thinking about how one should look at security posture management in the context of when you're building your next gen IT strategy within your respective organizations. And well, my background is very much into cybersecurity, but I have worked in industries across all industries, you could say, and very much in the field of IT, and also for more or less all my life. Just a couple of points about myself. Been 2.5 years with Nixu now, where I'm responsible for our managed services business. But prior to that, I spent the past 20 years with a company called CGI, who is a huge IT system integrator. And much of the thinking behind here is inspired by being part of all sorts of roles with hundreds of clients in different industries across my experience with working with different IT organizations, you could say. And so going into the actual topic then, so nothing new on this slide. I would say that you have all been or are part of building the digital transformation that we all set out for some decades back, and there has, of course, been a huge value promise within that to drive more, better productivity from your business aspects, not maybe from the IT operation aspect even, but also there, of course, you seek efficiencies and so forth. But looking at it from a cybersecurity perspective, you could actually argue that while we have been doing that, we have actually been adding complexity. We have all sorts of digital services popping up left and right, and they maybe used to be managed by enterprise IT. Today they are more and more, they're part of what we call the business IT, so responsibility is spread out within your organization to lines of businesses, which is great for the lines of businesses. They get autonomy and can drive their respective IT services at a more rapid speed, and thus get those productivity benefits on the left-hand side. But from a cybersecurity perspective, as said, what this means is that we're adding complexity. Typically, these are built on top of pre-existing other services. We add new services to the soup. We add interdependencies in the architecture. And by doing that, we also constantly keep growing the attack surface, as we would call it from a cybersecurity perspective. And hence the kind of the value proposition of the enhanced performance on the IT side is kind of counterintuitive to that of the cybersecurity side. So we're not really getting better productivity on the cybersecurity side, and thus you kind of see you're spending more and more money on cybersecurity, and still your risk posture most probably is growing. And unless your business is shrinking altogether, which of course is something that we try all to avoid, but yeah. So this is a bit of a bad balance, I would say. So then thinking about going forward, what could we do about this? Well, okay, it doesn't help that we have a lot of regulation coming also left and right. It puts a lot of constraints. We need to build resilience into the organization and strategies and ways of working, more compliance requirements. The global footprint of vulnerabilities is constantly growing within the kind of tech stacks that you're getting from the market, but also in the systems that you're building in-house. There is no such thing that a system that is not vulnerable. It's just a matter of how badly. And you have a lot of legacy. I know it's also kind of very popular these days to talk about integrated ecosystem solutions, XDR solutions, whatnot, and there's the benefit of yes, all the security tools are pre-integrated, they work well together, and that is true. if you're kind of born in the cloud and all of your stuff is up to date. But typically you aren't, and thus you have a lot of legacy, be it from past decades or be it from past weeks. And the fact that you have the lines of businesses running around in their DevOps teams and building new services at an amazing speed, that is all legacy of tomorrow that we build today. So again, the attack surface keeps growing and complexity keeps growing. And pre-warning, I'm going to have a couple of polls here as well, so have your smartphones ready. Then looking at it from the CISO perspective, so if you have the pleasant role of protecting your business against all of this, then that complexity is adding weight at an amazing speed. As here you can see some figures, not kind of go into the details of those, but the amounts of vulnerabilities is exponentially growing all the time. The same thing with the assets that you try to protect, growing at a huge pace all the time. And there's new malware popping up every day. Great segue to the previous presenter as well. So for instance, now ransomware groups, this is exactly the vulnerability of your enterprise IT that they look out to exploit and gain control of all of your IT and then hold you hostage, to be really frank. And that weight on the CISO's shoulder is growing exponentially. So what can we then do to help him or her out there is maybe the question. And then we get to the first poll question as well, where I seek your advice on that. So how do you see this from your perspective, organization's view? Are you able to balance out the cost of cybersecurity while mitigating the risks? And there are a couple of options there. The last one being that you're well covered and all is nice and well and nothing to be done. In that case, I'm sorry, I have nothing more to tell you today, so, but we can catch up afterwards. I want to learn. But seems that we're not getting much responses here, but let's give it a couple of seconds more. Okay, so far 100% is saying that we're managing the risk, but the cost keeps growing. And I would say that this is pretty much what I would expect as well. Also maybe seeing somewhat the situation that both are growing and both the risk and the cost, but nevertheless makes sense. And of course, what we should be aiming for is to getting to a place of equilibrium where cost and risk is in balance and we're on top of it, despite the fact that the attack surface keeps growing. So how could we then do that? So we need a shift in the way we work. In this picture, actually now I think we jumped one slide. Yes, here you kind of, I try to, in a very simple manner, draw you as the CISO or CIO responsible of getting all this working there on the left-hand side, and all the bubbles around you there are the different stakeholders that you have. Could be internal altogether, could be external. Here in the Nordics, it's very typical that you've outsourced much of this. In that case, you have more the situation on the right-hand side that you have a bunch of different service providers that do their utmost best to produce those services also to the agreed security requirements that you set out in your contracts for those respective services. But it's getting complex already on this level, and bear in mind that this is a very, very much simplified view of what it really looks like. And if we kind of take it forward, then what's the shift there? What I'm aiming for is that by having this kind of setup, you're actually positioning yourself in a place where you need to control all of these. And with respect to the previous presentation as well, when you have a ransomware attack where you're not sitting on top of your enterprise IT 100% yourself, but you have a vast network of suppliers who actually are running that for you, and they go a bit kind of narrow-sightedly about to produce the service that they contracted to do, and they're focusing on doing that in accordance with the SLAs. Whereas, in fact, the security controls that you would need to automate and orchestrate and run in concert throughout that whole ecosystem it's kind of cutting them in the 90 degrees angle towards the contracted responsibilities. And this makes it really, really complex. And when you have a major security incident like that, you will not sleep. That's 100% certain in this scenario. Rather, you will be very much engaged in trying to convince that, yeah, this server guy is now telling you, network guy, that you need to do this, and you actually need to do that. He's asking on behalf of myself as the CIO or CISO there. But this gets complex, it gets really, really slow. And what you really would want is to, of course, stay informed, stay very much in control, be able to make decisions based on being informed, but know that your ecosystem, they're actually playing together. And thinking about, this is not a new invention. If you think about this from an IT service perspective, we've been doing SIAM, service integration and management in the IT landscape for decades already. It's just about that, right? So making sure, putting someone in the kind of a driver's seat and making sure that they have the tools what it takes to control those relationships, steer it, and make sure that they deliver up to their contracts, manage the contracts, etc. But when you think about this from a cybersecurity perspective, we're far from there. So the maturity of this is kind of, I would say, non-existing today in the cybersecurity landscape. Because, as said, it's cutting across those service delivery towers or silos or whatever you want to call these different bubbles here. And that, in essence, we've conceptualized at Nixu, and we call it the security fusion. And that's our kind of a guiding star where we are driving towards our own business. We're delivering and developing our services towards that. So to put us in a position where we really can orchestrate the whole all the security controls in an enterprise IT environment where you have this heterogeneous service delivery network in place. And then it's not a matter of technology anymore. Of course, it helps if you have a lot of tools that are interconnected, like the XDR ecosystems. They are great, but they will not kind of extend over all of your enterprise IT, and not to even go into the topic of operational technology, but there you will have those of you who have OT environments. They are extremely isolated from the rest of it. But nevertheless, going towards that, so it's our North Star. In practice, we're trying to build a SIEM model for running a cybersecurity ecosystem. And while we do that, we of course need a bunch of other capabilities on the way. Yeah, we need to monitor for security incidents so that we know that we have the ransomware cooking there under the hood and start taking action before it's obvious for everyone. And for that, we need all sorts of capabilities, but they need to be aligned all the time towards that end game where we're actually then running this in full concert and orchestrating across all the suppliers and etc. So that, in essence, is where we are going. And we, of course, like to invite you to join the journey. Then we have the next poll, where the question is, so which of these aspects do you think that are needed in order to get that security fusion running in your organizations? I again have my own guess, but let's see what you think. Yeah. I would personally have voted for the last one, that we actually need all of these. Okay, it's a split decision now. So. Okay, yes, All of the above. I fully agree. So very much it's about strategy, of course. So we need to have a clear strategy. This doesn't happen by accident, by no means. It's very much about process integration as well. So I would not call this technical integration, but underline the process there. So if we do, for instance, security posture management, so the discipline of configuring stuff in a secure manner all across the board, it cuts through all those service towers. Thus, it needs to be an integrated process, and process is very much happening between organizations and people and so forth. So it's to a large extent a non-technical matter, but it's crucial to get it going. And of course, there needs to be a contractual setup that allows for all of this. Now, today, we have very typically have a situation where, let's say, someone is maintaining your firewalls, and then your security provider for servers comes and says that, yeah, you need to change your configuration in the firewall. And they say, hell no, hands off the kind of SLA agreement if you start meddling with my business here. So it's much of a cultural thing, contractual thing to get the mandate to do this all together. But yes, then back to slides and wrapping up. And so what I would suggest that when you start thinking about your next generation IT strategy then is to think about how will you bake in security posture management in the way how you run your IT environment holistically, not just in one particular silo. And you will probably also have one or several managed security services providers helping you out there, and that's all fine and well. They also need to be part of this and enabled also contractually to really integrate directly with those producing those IT services. And you need all these other capabilities as well there and a bunch more, so hence the 3 dots there. So in essence, you need to write a strategy where the end game is that you have the ability to execute on cybersecurity in a seamless manner across your whole IT landscape. And that's my last thoughts really. And if you want to read more into it, then you find the QR code there and you can find a white paper on our security fusion concept.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Actually, this is a topic close to my heart, and I could talk for days about it. But actually, and it ain't easy. It ain't easy at all.
No.
And so you need good partners to do that. I'm going to pick your brain regarding the security fusion, and I'm really interested in learning about security fusion. And how do you see in the Nordic level? How feasible is the security fusion for the Nordic clients? And now and in the near future, and how do you see the, let's say, are there different level of in the customer maturity or the security maturity different Nordic countries?
Yeah, well, great question. So first is starting with the Nordic kind of feasibility for security fusion in the Nordics. We have a huge outsourcing kind of maturity in the Nordic countries in comparison to the rest of the world, really. So much of IT operations is already outsourced.
True.
Hence, this is even more kind of valid for us here. If you would kind of, let's say you're an American enterprise and you basically can run everything in-house, it's a bit more easy because you are in control. But now since you're outsourced, everything is contracted left and right. It's very kind of, it's a must-have, let's say like that. So maybe that is my feasibility study then. Then about the maturity, so were you looking for between the countries or?
For example, is there
well, of
do you
course,
see a difference?
The different,
because you work in Pan-Nordic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a great difference again. So for instance, I had the slide with the different capabilities kind of on the way to the state of security fusion. There's a huge difference of, for instance, adoption of security operations and security monitoring services is wildly different in Finland in comparison, for instance, to Sweden already. So I would say in this case, Finland is more or less a decade ahead of the Swedish market. But now they're catching up and they're kind of skipping the first generation of security operations and jumping straight to the second.
It's like the old slogan, Finland alltid en timme före. Ja, a step ahead. It's good. But hey, I'm afraid I think we're running out of time. Thank you, Jan Mickos, very much for an inspiring case presentation, which wasn't a case, but anyway. And it says in my script it was a case presentation, so let's stick to that. And congratulations for finding the clicker we tried to hide.
Yes.
Hey, and while we're standing, all of us three here, so I can tell you that next we have a break, and refreshments can be found there in Hall E, and we'll continue at 2:50 p.m. with our last three program numbers, which includes one panel discussion.
And you will be back on stage as well.
Yeah, you will in that one panel, yes.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.
So Jan will make a comeback soon. Anyway, yeah. Cheers, see you soon.
Thank you.
See you.